3 weeks before I ended up on my aunt's kitchen floor, my family wanted exactly one thing from me. Not my opinion. Not my well-being. My signature on $2.4 million worth of debt my stepbrother Marcus had already buried himself under. They called it family. They called it loyalty. They called it just paperwork. But when I said no, Marcus showed up at my townhouse, forced his way through my door, and left me on the carpet while my own mother stood over me and said, "You did this to yourself." What the police found afterward wasn't just what happened that night. It was what my family had been hiding long before I ever picked up a pen. My name is Reeve Callahan, and this is the story of the night I stopped being the dependable one. Before we get into it, tell me where you're listening from and what time it is there, because this started with a Sunday dinner invitation. And if you've ever been punished for protecting yourself from the people who were supposed to love you most, what I'm about to share will feel painfully familiar. 3 weeks before everything collapsed, I was sitting in a private dining room at a restaurant called The Lantern House in Asheville, North Carolina, watching my family laugh like the world made sense. That was the strange part. Nothing about that evening looked dangerous. No raised voices, no slammed doors. Just pressed linen napkins, candlelight, and people smiling slightly too hard. I had driven there straight from my office, still in my blazer, the charcoal one my college roommate once said made me look like I was perpetually about to deliver bad news. She wasn't wrong. My stepbrother Marcus was holding court near the bar when I arrived. He was describing the property he was buying, not just a house, a legacy home, he called it. Nearly $2.4 million. Mountain views. Custom stonework. A wine room. A guest wing for future children. My mother, Diane, touched Marcus's arm like he had personally hung the moon. Then Marcus spotted me across the room. "There she is," he said, grinning wide. "The human audit report." A few people laughed. I smiled, because smiling was what I had trained myself to do. He kept going. "Reeve still reads the fine print before downloading a free app. But hey, every family needs someone who triple checks the math." My stepfather, Gerald, laughed harder than anyone. That laugh sat in my chest longer than the joke did. After dinner, when the server cleared the plates and refilled the coffee, Gerald placed a thick manila folder in front of me. Not beside me. In front of me. Like the whole evening had been moving toward this single moment. Inside were financing documents for Marcus's house, 2 vehicle loans, and a business credit line. The total exposure was $2.4 million. Gerald spoke gently, which somehow made everything worse. "The lender wants a cosigner while Marcus repositions some assets. Temporary, clean, nothing dramatic." I worked in financial compliance. I knew exactly what those documents meant. Co-signing wasn't moral support. It was liability. If Marcus missed payments, my credit absorbed the damage. If he defaulted, his debt became mine. I didn't say no, not yet. I only asked if I could review everything first. The table shifted the way a room shifts when someone says the wrong thing at the wrong time. Diane set down her glass. "Families don't hesitate when someone needs help, Reeve." Marcus leaned back. "You're the only person here treating this like a hostile acquisition." Gerald let the silence stretch before he added, "Sometimes loyalty matters more than caution." That was how they did it. No threats. Just the quiet suggestion that hesitation was betrayal. I sat there with coffee still warm in my hands, staring at documents that could dismantle everything I had built, and understood something I had been avoiding for years. I wasn't afraid of losing money. I was afraid of admitting my family only saw my value when I was useful. I didn't sleep much that night. By 6 a.m., the folder was spread across my dining table, and I was already 3 layers deep into public filings. I worked in compliance. Finding what people tried to hide inside clean-looking documents was literally my job. Marcus's income projections were too smooth. No dips, no delays, no mess. Then I found the LLC names. Stratton Residential Group. BM Holdings LLC. Peak Tier Properties. Different names, same registered address, same circular financial structure. I kept digging. Maxed business credit lines. A private lender not disclosed in the packet. 2 lawsuits from investors claiming Marcus had misrepresented project timelines. And buried beneath a refinancing note, a balloon payment that made no sense unless someone was expecting a sudden cash injection within months. Or unless someone else was going to be left responsible when everything caved. I sat back and stared at the rain sliding down my kitchen window. My mother had called this straightforward. Gerald had called it family. Marcus had called it paperwork. Nobody had called it what it was. That Monday, I took everything to a financial attorney named Cora Whitfield, someone I knew from a fraud case 2 years earlier. Sharp, unflappable, almost impossible to rattle. Exactly what I needed. She read quietly for 20 minutes. Then she stopped and looked up over her reading glasses. "There are 4 additional entities he didn't disclose," she said. "Shell LLCs, delinquent business taxes, a balloon payment on the flagship property, 1 luxury vehicle lease already flagged for default. 2 investor complaints still open. If you sign those documents, Cora said, tapping the folder, they don't just own your credit. They own your future. I sat in my car afterward for almost 40 minutes without starting the engine. Marcus hadn't asked me to stand beside him. He had asked me to stand under him while the ceiling fell. That evening, I drove to my mother's house unannounced. Gerald opened the door in his cardigan, iced tea in hand, annoyed before I said a word. I laid everything out plainly. The lawsuits, the hidden debt, the balloon payment, the undisclosed lenders. My mother listened without surprise. That told me everything. You knew, I said. Gerald's jaw tightened. I knew Marcus was under pressure. You knew he was drowning and you still tried to tie me to him. Don't make this uglier than it is. It is ugly. He set down his glass very carefully. Marcus may take risks, but at least he builds something. You just protect yourself. I had spent my entire adult life being the dependable one, the daughter who saved, who planned, who showed up and cleaned up quietly. And somehow my stepfather had turned that into a character flaw. I left before I said something I couldn't take back. 2 nights later, Marcus came to my door. It was past 9 p.m. when he knocked hard enough to shake the frame. I opened the door on the chain. He was standing in the hallway, rain on his jacket, something past anger in his eyes. You hired a lawyer, he said. I got advice. You went digging through my business. You asked me to sign for it. His eyes moved past me, to the documents spread across my kitchen table. Cora's notes. My printed screenshots. The folder I'd labeled exposure file. Something shifted in his expression. Not surprise, recognition. He hit the door with his shoulder. The chain broke clean from the frame. I stepped back fast. Marcus, stop. He came in anyway. You think you're better than everyone because you play it safe? I'm not signing. That's final. That was the first time I'd said it without softening it. What happened next came in pieces. His hand on my arm, my back connecting with the wall, pain cracking through my shoulder, my feet losing the floor. I remember the corner of the coffee table, the sound of something ceramic breaking, my body hitting the hardwood in a way that told me immediately something was wrong. Marcus stood over me, breathing hard. 1 signature. That's all this ever was. Then my mother's voice came from the doorway. For 1 breathless second, I thought she'll see this. She'll finally understand. But Diane didn't rush toward me. She looked at Marcus first. Then she looked at the papers scattered across the floor. Her face settled into something cold. You always push people to this point, she said. I tried to sit up. My shoulder screamed. Mom. He broke into my home. Her eyes moved to my face, then away. You brought this on yourself. There are sentences that don't land loudly. They just sever the last thread holding you together. I reached for my phone on the floor. Screen cracked. Still lit. Don't make this worse, Gerald said from behind her. I looked at my mother. I need help. You need to stop making yourself the victim every time this family asks something of you. They left. The door hung open. Rain blew in from the hall. I stayed on the floor until I couldn't anymore. Then I used the wall. Then the door frame. Then the car. I don't remember most of the drive. I only remember the highway lights smearing across the windshield and my right hand gripping the wheel because my left arm wouldn't cooperate. I drove to the only person who had never once asked me to shrink myself. My Aunt Sylvie. She opened the door before I finished knocking. Her face changed the moment she saw me. Not fear. Exactly. Something older and harder. Horror wrapped in love. Reeve. I didn't sign, I said. Then the porch light blurred. And she caught me as I went down. I woke up at Mission Hospital in Asheville. White ceiling. Monitor beeping. My right arm strapped and elevated. Sylvie was asleep in the chair beside the bed. Still in her housecoat. 1 hand resting near the blanket. Close enough that I knew she hadn't left. A detective named Ren Okafor came in later that afternoon, calm and direct. The kind of person who makes space for truth without decorating it. I told her everything. The restaurant dinner, the loan documents, the financial records, the SUV I'd seen parked outside my building, the photo Marcus sent of me entering Cora's office taken from across the street. Detective Okafor wrote, without interrupting. When I finished, she looked up. Your mother witnessed your condition and left you on the floor. I nodded once. Her jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. This isn't just assault. We're looking at coercion, financial intimidation, possible witness interference. For the first time, what happened to me had legal names. Not a family disagreement. Not me being difficult. Not me being too sensitive. It had names. A neighbor's doorbell camera had captured part of the hallway, imperfect angle, muffled audio but enough. Marcus forcing the door. The sounds from inside. Diane arriving. And 1 sentence. Coming through clear. You brought this on yourself. The courtroom hearing was the kind of morning that smells like wet umbrellas and fluorescent lighting. Sylvie walked in beside me, Cora Whitfield on my other side. Marcus sat at the defense table in a tailored jacket, looking like a man wrongfully inconvenienced. My mother sat behind him. She did not look at me once. Marcus's attorney built the expected story. I was unstable. I resented Marcus's success. I had manipulated Sylvie. I had turned a family misunderstanding into a legal attack. Then Cora stood up. She didn't raise her voice. She simply introduced the evidence, the hallway footage, the hospital photographs, the financial records, the hidden LLCs, the investor lawsuits, the balloon payment, the text messages pressing me toward a Friday deadline. The audio played, muffled at first. Then, "You brought this on yourself." The courtroom went completely still. Under questioning, Gerald finally said it aloud. He had known about Marcus's financial exposure and had still wanted me to co-sign. The judge paused. Diane, when asked directly, said she believed the family needed Reeve to be stronger than her feelings. I looked at my mother in that moment, and something inside me went very quiet. She had never seen my steadiness as something worth protecting, only something to spend. 6 months later, Marcus was sentenced on assault and coercion charges. A financial fraud investigation continued pulling at everything else. Investors filed civil suits. Banks stopped accepting his charm as collateral. Gerald's name disappeared from the local business council boards. My mother moved into an apartment across town. People assumed that would feel like winning. It felt like grief. Because justice doesn't return the years you spent making yourself small. It doesn't undo the muscle memory of flinching. It doesn't stop the rain from sounding, for just half a second, exactly like it did the night you hit the floor. My shoulder still catches when I reach too fast. The scar near my eyebrow faded. I stopped looking away from it. Therapy helped me understand that being low maintenance, endlessly dependable, and never asking for too much, were not personality traits. They were survival strategies I had long outlived. The deepest injury was never physical. It was believing love had to be earned by making yourself useful. A few months into recovery, I started speaking at financial literacy workshops across Western North Carolina. Co-signing, personal guarantees, credit freezes, elder financial abuse. How family pressure often sounds loving right up until the paperwork arrives. After one session, a woman in her 60s waited until the room emptied. She twisted the strap of her purse and said quietly, "My son has been calling what he's asking me to do loyalty for 2 years." I didn't have a name for why it felt wrong until tonight. I had to look down at my notes for a moment. That was when my pain became something other than wreckage. Sylvie's kitchen table. Late October. The smell of coffee and wood smoke and something baking. I had taken my mother's old watch left to me originally. Redirected to Marcus years ago. Quietly recovered by Sylvie to a jeweler in Brevard to be restored. When I opened the back panel, there was an inscription so faded I almost missed it. For the daughter who knows the difference between kindness and surrender. I read it 3 times before I could speak. Sylvie pretended to be very focused on her crossword puzzle. "She knew you," she said. That weekend, a few people gathered at Sylvie's back porch. Not many. Cora. Detective Okafor. A colleague named Joelle who had once waited in a break room doorway just long enough to let me breathe. A few others who had never once asked me to bleed to belong. Simple food. Warm lights. Easy laughter. Someone asked if I regretted fighting back. I looked out over the mountains turning dark blue at the edges. "No," I said. "I only regret how long I believed that surviving people who hurt you was the same thing as loving them." The group went quiet, but the good kind. The kind that holds respect in it. Later, I stood alone at the railing, listening to the watch tick steadily in my jacket pocket. Some wounds don't fully disappear. But eventually, they stop deciding the shape of everything ahead. I slipped the watch back into my pocket and walked toward the porch light. Toward the sound of people laughing softly over coffee. Not the family I was born into. The family I chose. Have you ever been pressured to choose between your financial future and your family's approval? I'd really like to hear your story in the comments.